So, we are back here talking about the Vancouver Canucks and one of their former defensemen. Because, in the last video in which we spoke about this dude, it was, look at that, 50,000 subscribers. Thank you very much, that is amazing. The last time we had spoken about this dude, it was in a video where he spoke about the Ivan Demidov situation. He talked about how the Blackhawks made a mistake by not drafting Ivan Demidov and instead taking Levshunov. And he also, in a separate interview, spoke out about his time in Vancouver. Of course, you know, we are talking about the Big Z, Nikita Zadorov, who made comments about Vancouver over a week ago. It was really positive. Everybody was talking about, oh yeah, this guy's talking about how Vancouver was the best time of his career. Why did he have to leave, man? Why? And for months, we have been going over the idea of Nikita Zadorov and Vancouver, talking about why he left, whether or not the Vancouver Canucks are in a better spot because he left, whether or not the Canucks lowballed him, disrespected him, whatever. There were all these words and labels being thrown around because Nikita Zadorov, of course, is a very talkative dude. He loves to go out there into the media and, I don't want to say stir some feathers, but he does make some comments once in a while that does get the people going. And for Vancouver, a lot of us were going out there and thinking about the Canucks as some sort of a bad party for not keeping Zadorov. They're putting themselves in a worse position by not keeping this dude. Oh, why didn't you just give him the money that he wanted? Why didn't you give him the term that he wanted? Well, with all that in mind, we actually had ourselves Nikita Zadorov and the situation coming back to Vancouver because Jim Rutherford bites back. We're going over onto the Globe and Mail article. This is the second article that Gary Mason published in an interview with Jim Rutherford. He had the first one where Rutherford spoke about the rift, and then the second one, it goes over some of the extra things in regards to Vancouver hockey. Jim Rutherford spoke out about Nikita Zadorov and the contract negotiations and why the Canucks were ultimately not able to get a deal done. Take a look at this. Nikita Zadorov told the Canucks to get to $5 million AAV. They did, and he didn't sign. Then he told them to get to 6 years. They did, and he didn't sign again. Here's a quote from Jim Rutherford from Gary Mason's second article on the Globe and Mail. At the end, Nikita Zadorov was talking close with Rick Tocchet while Patrick Allvin was talking to his agent. Tocchet would ask Zadorov, "What is it going to take to keep you here?" And Zadorov said he had to get his contract to $5 million AAV and then he'd be set. So, we got him to $5 million AAV. But then there was still no deal. So, Rick Tocchet said to Zadorov, "What's going on?" And then he said, "Well, if I can get to 6 years, then I'll stay." Same process. We said okay. So twice in that process, Nikita Zadorov said, "Give me one more thing and I'll stay," and then we give it to him, and then he goes to Boston. So, with this in mind, it seems like Nikita Zadorov may have just used the Vancouver Canucks to get what he wants in Boston. He used Van as leverage to get the deal in Boston. I would love him to be a Canuck again if Boston keeps having issues. I liked his personality and his interviews, and he fit well in the Canucks system. That's disappointing. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I loved Zadorov and I wanted him back, but if that story is true, very unfortunate. If he truly wanted to stay, the offer was there. If he was disrespected by the first offer, he's got to realize it's a business. Of course, they'll lowball you. And that word in particular was tossed out a bit. We had discussed the idea whether or not the Canucks disrespected Zadorov in their negotiations. Zadorov later on in the season ended up saying, no, there was no disrespect, but still, with this in mind, if the Vancouver Canucks were not giving Zadorov what it is that he wanted, and twice they said, okay, sorry, we'll give you what you want, only for him to leave, that does sound a little bit shady. And we did have ourselves some extra thoughts about this here. Noah Strang tweeted this. Nikita Zadorov saved $567,000 in taxes per season signing with the Bruins instead of the Canucks. That's more than $3 million over the life of his new contract. That's assuming the AAV is the same and the term is the same, but he would have gotten about $500,000 in savings by signing the deal here here as in Boston versus signing it in Vancouver. And, I get it. Nikita Zadorov, he wanted that longer-term deal. He wanted 6 years. He wanted the contract that would set him up for life. And getting an extra $3 million over the next 6 years because he signed the contract in Boston versus Vancouver, that is a financially good move. Obviously, hockey players are not going to be able to play forever. They're not going to be able to make money forever. You want to set yourself up with the best deal possible. But it is kind of shady, in a way, to hear that Nikita Zadorov's demands in Vancouver were met, but then he decided to go to Boston one way or another, maybe because of $3 million in savings, maybe because he just liked it in Boston more, maybe because he never wanted to sign in Vancouver, who really knows? Of course, if the Canucks gave him like a 7-year, $8 million contract, he would have signed in Vancouver, but within reason, of course, that wouldn't have happened. So to see Vancouver get up to his reasoning, and to see him leave in the process, it does sting a little bit more. Jim Rutherford biting back against all the Nikita Zadorov discourse we had seen from the previous few months, pretty much. And furthermore, you had yourselves Nikita Zadorov's agent Dan Milstein weighing in on Rutherford's comments on Instagram. 7 months later, and we're still on this? 604 is a great city, but some things are better left in the past. #WeAreGoldStar. So, Dan Milstein biting back on Instagram to Jim Rutherford and the Vancouver Canucks commentary. We then had ourselves some extra thoughts from Canucks fans in response to Dan Milstein and the situation. Zadorov deserves to get dragged for this, honestly. Thomas Brown went out there and said this. 1, there's no denial. Number 2, his client Zadorov had been asked and commented about this twice since the season started. And 3, Jim Rutherford was directly asked about Zadorov, giving an honest, detailed answer. Milstein could have probably gone without any response if he wants it in the past. Exactly. And Zadorov even said his time in Vancouver was probably the coolest 6 months of his life. Milstein just doesn't like that details come out that don't look good necessarily for Zadorov or himself. And so at the end of the day, just from everything that's going on here, I mean, if we go over to Nikita Zadorov's contract situation with the Bruins, does he have any trade protection? It doesn't look like it. I know Elite Prospects isn't fully updated with it. Okay, he's got a modified no-trade clause. So Zadorov does have trade protection here. It doesn't really look like there is any path for Vancouver and Zadorov to reconcile their differences and come back in some sort of a trade. Obviously, I'm speaking from my own just sort of inferencing perspective. Because of the way that Nikita Zadorov left Vancouver, he wanted this stuff, he wanted the years, he wanted the money, and Vancouver was willing to give it to him only for him to take his request over to Boston. I mean, Vancouver acquiesced to what this guy wanted once. Are they going to do that again? Are they going to put themselves in a position to trade for Zadorov? I'm not too sure if that's really in the cards here. I mean, it seems like they wanted to do it earlier on, but this contract negotiation situation does seem a little bit sour, so I do wonder where the Canucks are internally when thinking about Zadorov and the way that he ended up leaving the team. I guess if they wanted to trade for him throughout the season, it's not that big of a deal. But still, with the agent biting back as well, saying, yeah, no, some things are better left in the past. Are we still talking about this? Like, that is a pretty snarky comment to respond back over to JR, who, by all accounts, is just being honest here. Jim Rutherford can sometimes be a little bit too honest at times, especially as indicated by his time in Pittsburgh. So with the comments he made about Pedersen and Miller, and with these comments now, to see the agent bite back, it does seem like a somewhat delicate perspective for Zadorov and his party. But either way, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Jim Rutherford biting back against Nikita Zadorov and the agent responding in tandem one more time. Do you think the Canucks have a realistic opportunity to trade for Zadorov from Boston? Let me know in the comment section what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.